The ship fell through the violet sky like a dying bird. Ethan could only hear the alarms screaming and see the red lights flashing before everything went black. When he opened his eyes again, there was silence, just the sound of wind moving through tall, glowing trees. His head throbbed. His leg burned. The world spun around him. He lay in the middle of a strange forest surrounded by trees that shimmered like silver and blue. The air smelled sweet, almost like rain mixed with flowers. Above him, 2 suns floated in the sky, one golden, one pale white. His ship was gone, broken pieces scattered around like bones. Ethan tried to stand, but pain shot up his leg. He winced, limping toward the wreckage. The comms were dead, the beacon cracked. No help was coming soon. He checked his wrist device, no signal, no oxygen shortage, but the planet was unknown. His heart began to race. He was alone. Completely alone on an alien world. He needed water first. His training told him that. He followed the faint sound of running water until he found a small stream that glowed faintly under the sunlight. He knelt, cupped the water in his hands, and drank. It tasted strange but clean, like melted snow. For a moment he felt a little peace, but then he heard it, the snap of a branch. Ethan froze. Something was moving in the forest. Slow, careful, watching. He turned around, scanning the shadows. His heart pounded as he reached for the emergency flare gun. But then from between the glowing trees they appeared. Tall figures, graceful and silent. Their skin shimmered like moonlight, and their long hair glowed faintly in colors of silver and gold. Their eyes were bright, too bright like molten amber. Ethan counted at least 6 of them. All women. All armed with weapons that looked like crystal spears. He raised both hands slowly. "I'm not your enemy," he said, voice shaking. I crashed here." They didn't answer at first. They studied him like hunters watching a strange animal. Their faces were calm, unreadable. One of them stepped forward. Taller than the rest, her presence quiet but commanding. The others lowered their weapons slightly when she moved. She spoke in a soft, melodic voice. The words were not human, yet his implant struggled to translate. After a moment, her voice echoed softly in his ear through the translator. "Who are you, stranger from the sky?" Ethan swallowed hard. "My name is Ethan Cole. I'm human. My ship fell. I didn't mean to enter your land." The tall woman tilted her head, studying him. "Human," she repeated, the word sounding heavy and unfamiliar. Then she said something to the others, and they murmured among themselves. Ethan could see curiosity, not anger, in their eyes. He lowered his hands slowly. The tall woman finally nodded. "You are hurt," she said through the translator. "Yes," Ethan admitted. "My leg." She stepped closer, her movements smooth and careful. Her golden eyes glowed faintly as she examined his wound. Without warning, she pulled out a small vial from a pouch and poured a glowing liquid on his leg. Ethan flinched as it burned for a second, then the pain faded. The bleeding stopped. He stared at her in disbelief. "That's amazing." The woman only gave a small nod, then turned to the others and spoke something brief. They surrounded Ethan, not threateningly, but with silent control. Then, without a word, they gestured for him to follow. Ethan hesitated. "You want me to come with you?" The tall woman looked back, her expression calm but firm. "You're not safe here," the translator said softly. He looked at the dark forest around him, at the strange eyes glimmering between the trees, and realized she was right. He had no choice. So Ethan followed them through the forest. The deeper they went, the more the light changed. The trees glowed with veins of blue energy, the ground soft like moss that pulsed faintly under their feet. He felt like he was walking through a dream, something sacred and alive. After a long walk, they reached a place high among the trees. Wooden bridges and platforms were woven from silver vines, forming a beautiful village in the canopy. Small lights hung like fireflies, and he could hear laughter, music, and soft voices echoing in the air. The tribe gathered as they entered, all women, all watching him with wide, curious eyes. Ethan realized then he was the only man in sight. The tall woman turned to him again and said, "Welcome to Nyara, human." And for the first time since his crash, Ethan felt something strange deep in his chest, relief, wonder, and fear all at once. He didn't know what waited for him among these alien women, but somehow he felt this was only the beginning. Ethan walked slowly through the hanging bridges of the Nyaran village, still limping slightly. The soft light of the glowing vines surrounded him, making the world feel like a dream. Everywhere he looked, there were women, tall, graceful, their skin shining faintly like moonlit silver. Some watched him with cautious curiosity, while others whispered quietly among themselves. The tall woman who had saved him led the way. She carried herself like a leader, her golden eyes calm but powerful. When Ethan looked at her, he felt both safe and nervous. She turned to him once they reached a large platform built around a giant tree that seemed to pulse with light. "I am Elira," she said slowly, her voice soft but strong. "High Speaker of the Nyarans. You are the first human we have seen." Ethan nodded, unsure what to say. "Thank you for helping me. I didn't mean to land here. My ship malfunctioned." Elira tilted her head. "Your sky machine. It fell with fire. Many thought it was a weapon." "I understand," Ethan said quietly, "but I didn't come to harm anyone." Elira looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "You speak truth. I feel no darkness in you." Her words gave him a strange comfort. She turned to one of the younger women standing nearby and spoke something in her language. The girl hurried away and soon returned with a bowl of steaming liquid. Elira handed it to Ethan. "Drink. It will make your strength return." Ethan took a careful sip. The taste was strange, sweet, spicy, and somehow full of energy. Warmth spread through his chest. He smiled weakly. "Thank you, it's really good." Elira's lips curved into a small smile, the first one he had seen from her. "You are polite for a man," she said softly, almost teasing. Ethan blinked. "You've met other men before?" Her expression changed slightly, a shadow passing through her eyes. "Long ago," she whispered, before the silence. He wanted to ask what that meant, but her face told him not to. The evening passed quietly. The Nyarans gave Ethan a small wooden shelter near the heart of their village. It was built high among the branches with soft woven mats and gentle lights that glowed like tiny stars. From there he could see the endless forest stretching out beneath the twin moons. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay awake, listening to the faint songs of the tribe, melodies that floated through the air like wind and sorrow. They didn't sound like war songs. They sounded like memories. The next morning Ethan limped to the main square. The village was alive with movement. Some Nyarans were crafting tools out of crystal, some tending to floating gardens that shimmered with blue plants, and others training with glowing spears. A young Nyaran noticed him watching and smiled. Her name was Sira, he would later learn. She had short white hair that glowed faintly in the sun. "You walk better today," she said with a cheerful voice. "Thanks to your healer," Ethan replied. "That medicine worked like magic," Sira laughed softly. "Magic? No, it is the gift of the forest. The old trees share their light with us." Ethan looked at the glowing plants around them, amazed. "Your world is beautiful." She tilted her head curiously. "Is your world not?" Ethan paused. "It used to be," he said quietly. "Now it's crowded, loud, always rushing. We forgot how to listen." Sira's golden eyes softened. "Then maybe you were meant to come here, human." Her words stayed in his mind all day. As time passed, more Nyarans approached him, some shy, some curious. They asked about Earth, about the oceans, the stars, and human life. Ethan answered as best as he could, drawing pictures in the dirt, laughing when they misunderstood, and listening when they shared stories of their own world. In return, he helped where he could. He repaired a broken water pulley, taught them how to make simple rope bridges stronger, and even showed them how to use metal from his crashed ship to reinforce tools. The Nyarans watched in fascination, whispering that humans were clever builders. As days turned to weeks, the fear between them slowly faded. Ethan began to feel accepted. He was no longer the man from the sky. He was Ethan, a friend of the tribe. One evening, as the twin suns sank behind the glowing horizon, Elira came to see him. She stood beside him on the high platform, her long hair shining like gold fire. "You are different," she said quietly. "Many who fall from the sky bring death. You bring peace." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I just got lucky." Elira looked at him for a long moment. "There are no accidents, human. Sometimes the forest sends what we need most." The wind blew softly through the silver trees. Ethan looked at the village below, the laughter, the light, the songs, and felt something stir deep in his chest. For the first time since his crash, he wasn't thinking about rescue. He was thinking about staying, and he didn't yet know that soon every woman in the tribe would want to speak with him. Ethan soon became part of daily life in the Nyaran village. Every morning, The soft light of the twin suns filtered through the silver trees, and the air smelled of flowers and glowing fruit. The forest never slept. It hummed quietly as if it breathed with them. The Nyrons no longer stared at Ethan like a stranger. They smiled when he passed. They greeted him with small nods and offered him fruit or warm drinks that tasted like honey and spice. Slowly, the fear between them melted away and turned into curiosity. The women wanted to know everything about him. Ethan found himself surrounded by them almost every evening near the central fire pit. They sat close listening to his stories about Earth, the blue oceans, the endless cities, and the rains that came suddenly and left the streets shining. One of the younger women, Sira, always sat nearest to him. Her golden eyes were full of light. "You said your world has millions of people?" she asked one night. "That sounds noisy," Ethan chuckled. "It is, sometimes too noisy. We live fast, always rushing somewhere, but sometimes I miss the quiet. The forest here, it feels alive but peaceful." The women nodded, exchanging soft smiles. To them, the forest was sacred. To hear a man respect it seemed to touch their hearts. Elira, the high speaker, often watched these gatherings from a distance. Her calm eyes followed Ethan as he talked and laughed, her expression unreadable. She rarely spoke during these evenings, but her silence carried a kind of strength that made Ethan feel humble. As time passed, he began helping more around the village. His knowledge of mechanics fascinated them. He repaired the old water collectors using parts from his ship. He built small tools that made weaving easier. The tribe began to call him Light Hand, a name of respect among them. But what amazed Ethan the most was how simple their lives were, and yet how full of meaning. They did not fight for power or argue about wealth. Their world was built on trust, cooperation, and song. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. One evening, after fixing a damaged bridge, Ethan noticed Sira sitting alone by the edge of the forest. Her usual smile was gone. She looked lost in thought. He walked over quietly. "Sira," he said softly, "are you all right?" She didn't look at him right away. Her eyes were fixed on the glowing trees. "You speak of your people as many," she said. "So many men and women. So many children. It must feel good to have such a large family." Ethan nodded slowly. "Sometimes it does, but not everyone on Earth feels like they belong." Sira turned to him then, her expression sad. "Here it is different. We all belong. But we are few now. Fewer each year." Ethan frowned. "Why? Your world seems so rich, so alive." She hesitated, then whispered, "Because life can be cruel even to those who sing with the forest." Before Ethan could ask more, Elira appeared from the shadows. Her voice was calm, but there was warning in it. "Sira, the night grows cold. Go and rest." Sira obeyed, though she gave Ethan a small apologetic smile before leaving. When she was gone, Elira stood silently beside him. Her eyes glowed softly in the moonlight. "The young one speaks too freely," she said gently. "Our pain is not yours to carry." Ethan looked at her. "But if I'm living among you, maybe it is." For the first time, Elira looked surprised. Then her expression softened. "You are kind, Ethan of Earth. But kindness can open wounds that never healed." With that, she turned and walked away, her long golden hair shining under the moonlight. Ethan stood there, feeling the cold wind brush against his face. That night, he couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. Wounds that never healed. What had happened to them? Why did they live only as women? The next morning, when he joined the hunters, he noticed how the older women sometimes looked toward the empty sky. Some wore small pendants shaped like twin circles, symbols of something lost. Even the songs they sang had sadness woven into their beauty. Ethan listened quietly, realizing that behind every smile was a story untold. As days passed, more of the tribe wanted to speak with him, asking questions not only about his world, but about what it meant to love, to hope, to dream. They asked if humans feared death, if men and women lived in balance, if children ever forgot their parents' songs. Ethan answered honestly, even when the truth was painful, and as he spoke he saw something change in their eyes, a soft glow of remembrance, as if he had touched something buried deep inside them. He didn't know it yet, but his presence was stirring old memories. The forest listened in silence. The tribe began to whisper among themselves. And somewhere Elira watched from the high platform, her golden eyes filled with both hope and fear. The man from the stars was bringing life back to their hearts. But every miracle has a cost. The days in Nyara passed gently, like the soft rhythm of a heartbeat. Ethan had grown used to the tribe's quiet songs, the glow of the trees, and the kindness that surrounded him. He helped the Nyarans with repairs, shared stories about his home, and learned more of their language. Yet the more he lived among them, the more he felt something unspoken beneath their smiles. Something heavy, like grief wrapped in silence. It was always there. In the way Elira's eyes lingered on the stars at night. In the way Sira stopped singing when certain melodies were played. In the way the children looked up at the sky as if waiting for something that would never return. Ethan couldn't stop wondering what had happened to their world. Why were there no men? Why did they live as if surrounded by ghosts? One evening, curiosity finally pushed him to search for answers. He walked beyond the edge of the village, following a narrow path that led deep into the glowing forest. The air grew cooler, the trees older and taller. Strange symbols were carved into their trunks, spirals and circles worn by time. He followed until he reached a wide clearing. In the center stood stone pillars, cracked and covered in moss. Around them were rows of stones carefully arranged like graves. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "Oh, no," he whispered. As he knelt to touch one of the stones, he heard footsteps behind him. Elira's calm voice broke the silence. "You should not have come here, Ethan." He turned to see her standing under the pale moonlight, her golden hair glowing softly. She didn't look angry, only sad. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to intrude. You wished to know," she finished for him. Ethan nodded. "Yes, I can feel something. Missing here. Everyone carries it. I just want to understand." Elira looked at the graves for a long moment before speaking. "These are the resting places of the last men of Nyara." Her voice was low, heavy with memory. Ethan's breath caught. "The last men?" She nodded slowly. "Many seasons ago, a sickness came from beyond the stars. It spread through the lands like fire through dry leaves. It touched only the men, our fathers, our brothers, our sons. No cure was found. No prayer saved them. One by one, they fell and the forest became silent." She closed her eyes, her voice trembling slightly. "When the sickness passed, only we remained." Ethan felt a deep ache in his heart. He looked around at the graves again. Hundreds of them, each marked with small carvings and flowers. The silence of the forest felt heavier now, full of memory and loss. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. Elira gave a faint smile, though her eyes were wet. "Do not pity us. We have lived long without them. The forest became our companion, the stars our guardians. But time changes even the strongest hearts. The songs we sing now are the echoes of voices long gone." She knelt beside one of the graves and placed her hand on the stone. "This was my brother's resting place," she whispered. "He was brave. He believed the sickness was not the end, that someday life would return to balance. We all stopped believing long ago." Ethan stood there in silence. Words felt too small, too weak. Finally, he said, Maybe your brother was right." Elira looked up at him, her golden eyes reflecting the moonlight. "And what makes you believe that, human?" He took a slow breath. "Because you're still here. You survived when everything tried to destroy you. That means something. It means your story isn't over." For a long moment, Elira didn't reply. Then softly she said, "You speak as if you understand pain." Ethan gave a small, sad smile. "On my world, we've lost people too. Wars, hunger, sickness, we've seen all of it. But we keep going. We keep hoping even when it hurts." Her gaze softened. "Perhaps that is what makes your kind different." "Maybe," Ethan said quietly. "But I think it's what makes us the same." The wind passed through the clearing, carrying with it the faint whisper of old songs. The glowing trees flickered gently as if listening to them. Elira stood looking up at the twin moons. "If my people knew your words, it might bring them comfort." "You speak with a heart full of warmth, Ethan of Earth." He smiled faintly. "Then let me speak to them. Let me help, even if it's just with words." Elira studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. Tomorrow I will gather the tribe. You will tell them your story." As she walked ahead, leading him back to the village, Ethan looked once more at the graves. He felt a quiet promise form in his chest. He would not let their memory fade. For the first time, he understood that his crash was no accident. Maybe fate or something greater had brought him here. And deep within the forest of Nyara, something unseen began to stir. Hope, slowly waking after years of silence. The next morning, the forest was quiet, almost as if it waited for something. A soft mist hung between the trees, glowing faintly under the light of the twin suns. Ethan stood on the main platform of the Nyaran village, his hands trembling slightly. Below him, the tribe gathered, dozens of women with eyes like gold and silver, their faces calm but curious. Illyra stood beside him, tall and graceful as always. "Speak from your heart," she said softly. "They will listen." Ethan took a slow breath. The Nyrans had been nothing but kind to him, and now they trusted him enough to speak before all of them. He looked at their faces, the young, the old, the warriors, the healers. They all carried the same quiet sadness. He began simply. "I come from a world far from here," he said, his voice echoing across the wooden platforms. "A world of oceans, storms, and people who often forget what really matters." The crowd listened in silence. Even the forest seemed to still its breath. "I've seen beauty and I've seen destruction," he continued. "Humans build great cities, but we also destroy what we love. We fight, we lose, and we rise again. That's what we do, we keep going." He looked toward the horizon where the twin suns met the endless forest. "But when I came here, I saw something different. You live in peace. You live with the forest, not against it. You've lost much, yet you still sing. That is strength. That is life." Sira stood near the front, her eyes bright with emotion. "But we are fading, Ethan. We cannot give new life. How is that strength?" Ethan looked at her kindly. "Because you still hope," he said. "And hope is the seed of every miracle." The words hung in the air, soft but powerful. The Nyarans whispered among themselves, their golden eyes glimmering. Illyra remained silent beside him, watching. He continued, voice steady now. "Your men may be gone, but their memory lives in your songs, in your hearts. You honor them by living, not by fading away. You've built beauty from sorrow. I see it in everything you do." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Illyra stepped forward. "And what would you have us do, human? How do we fight what cannot be fought?" Ethan met her gaze. "By believing that your story isn't over," he said quietly. "By remembering that even in loss, there's life waiting to begin again. You told me your people once believed the forest would heal what was broken. Maybe it can still happen. Maybe it already has," she frowned softly. "Already has?" Ethan gave a small smile. "Maybe I wasn't just brought here by chance." A gentle murmur spread through the tribe. The Nyarans exchanged glances, their faces showing confusion, curiosity, and something else. Hope. Sira stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You mean the forest sent you?" Ethan looked at the glowing trees surrounding the village. "I don't know, but I believe some things happen for a reason. I thought I was lost when I crashed here. Now I'm not so sure." Illyra studied him quietly. Her eyes, golden and deep, searched his face as if she were looking for the truth hidden inside him. After a moment, she said softly, "Perhaps the forest has spoken after all." The tribe began to sing, a low, gentle hum that rose like wind through leaves. It was a song of remembrance, but this time Ethan could feel a shift. The sorrow was still there, but beneath it was something new, a trembling spark of life. That night the village was alive with warmth. Fires burned bright and laughter returned to the air. Ethan sat near the flames with Sira, Illyra, and the others. They shared food, stories, and songs. He told them tales of Earth's oceans, of the first humans who dared to cross space, of the courage that kept his people alive through endless darkness. As he spoke, the Nyarans' faces glowed with light from the flames. For the first time they looked not like a fading people, but like a tribe reborn. When the songs ended, Illyra turned to Ethan. "You have given us something we lost long ago," she said. Ethan smiled faintly. "What's that?" "Belief," she whispered, "that we are not alone in the stars." He looked at her, emotion tightening his chest. "You never were," he said quietly. For a long moment they said nothing. The fire crackled softly. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of glowing flowers and rain. And as the tribe slowly drifted into sleep, Ethan stared up at the twin moons above the forest. He felt a strange peace in his heart. He had come here broken, lost in a crash that should have killed him. But among these alien women in a world that had forgotten laughter, he had found something stronger than survival. He had found purpose, and though he didn't yet know what the future held, one truth was clear. The human from the stars had changed Nyara, and Nyara had changed him forever. Days passed peacefully after Ethan's speech. The Nyaran village seemed brighter now. The women laughed more. Their songs carried farther into the forest. Even the glowing trees seemed to shimmer with new life. Ethan worked beside them every day. He helped repair the wooden bridges, built water collectors, and shared what he knew about human farming. The Nyarans had strength and wisdom, but they had never seen human tools before. Together they built things that had not existed in Nyara for generations. Elira watched him often from a distance. Her calm golden eyes softened whenever he smiled. She had never met anyone like him, so fragile yet so full of fire. Humans, she realized, burned brighter than most species ever dared to. But peace never lasted long for Ethan. One morning, while gathering fruit near the river, he heard a strange hum in the air. A faint blue light shimmered above the trees like a wound opening in the sky. His heart raced. It was a signal, Earth technology. A rescue beacon. He dropped the basket and stared upward. His ship's distress beacon must have finally reached someone. Rescue was coming. Humanity had found him. By nightfall, the light grew stronger, forming a steady blue pulse across the sky. Elira found him standing on the edge of the cliff, staring up at it. "You know what that is?" she said softly. Ethan nodded slowly. "It's my people. They found my signal." Silence stretched between them. The forest hummed quietly. Elira's expression didn't change, but her hands tightened at her sides. "So, you will leave us?" Ethan turned to face her, pain flickering in his eyes. "Elira, I didn't plan for this. I thought I'd never see Earth again." "You gave us hope," she whispered. "And now you will take it with you." Her words struck him like a blade. He took a step closer. "No, that's not true. You don't need me for hope anymore. It's already inside you." She looked away, her jaw trembling. "It was you who woke it. You who made us remember who we are." He wanted to tell her that he would stay, that he belonged here among them. But deep down he knew he couldn't lie. He had a duty to return. Maybe his people were still searching for him. Maybe his story could help them understand this place. The beauty of Nyara. The next morning, the whole tribe gathered. The blue light pulsed stronger than ever, closer now like a heartbeat in the heavens. A human ship was entering the planet's orbit. The Nyarans stood together, silent and tense. Elira faced Ethan, her golden armor gleaming faintly under the twin suns. "Your people will come for you soon," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. "I'll tell them not to harm this place. I'll make them understand what I found here." Elira stepped closer, her voice shaking just slightly. "You will speak for us?" He looked into her eyes and placed his hand gently over his heart. "I swear it," the crowd murmured softly. Sierra stepped forward, tears shining in her silver eyes. "Will you return one day?" Ethan hesitated. "If the stars are kind," he said softly, "I will find my way back." The tribe sang for him one last time. It was not a song of mourning, it was one of farewell. Their voices rose high, carrying through the trees, blending with the sound of the forest wind. Ethan stood among them, his throat tight, trying to remember every sound, every face, every glowing tree. As night fell, Elira met him again by the great tree in the center of the village. The firelight painted her face in shades of gold and sorrow. "You will not forget us, will you?" she asked quietly. "Never," Ethan said, his voice almost breaking. "You saved me when I was lost. You showed me something I didn't think existed anymore. Kindness without reason." Elira reached out, touching his cheek gently. "Then remember us not as the lost, but as the living." He nodded, unable to speak. When dawn came, the human ship descended through the clouds, a bright silver vessel cutting across the sky. The ground trembled as it approached. The tribe watched silently from the forest edge as Ethan stood before the landing zone, his heart torn between two worlds. He turned one last time to face them. Elira stood tall among her people, wind blowing through her dark hair, her golden eyes never leaving his. Ethan raised his hand in silent salute. She placed her palm over her heart in return. The ramp of the human ship opened. Voices called his name. He stepped forward. Slowly, painfully. Every step felt heavier than the last. And just before he disappeared into the ship, he whispered under his breath, "I'll come back." The hatch closed behind him. The ship rose into the morning light, leaving a trail of silver fire across the sky. Down below, the Niarans watched in silence. Elira's heart ached, but she did not cry. She lifted her head proudly, her voice strong. "The forest brought him to us," she said, "and it will bring him home again." The tribe bowed their heads, and as the ship vanished into the clouds, the first rays of sunlight broke through, warm and golden, spilling across the forest like a promise. The stars looked different from inside a human ship. Ethan sat by the window, staring at the endless black sea of space. The hum of engines, the cold metal walls, the scent of recycled air. All of it felt strange now, familiar, yet empty. He should have felt relief. He was safe, alive, rescued after months stranded on a strange world. But his heart was still in the forest of Niara. Captain Lynn, a sharp woman with silver hair, walked in. "Lieutenant Ethan Cole, you've caused quite a stir," she said with a faint smile. "We thought you were dead." Ethan smiled weakly. "Sometimes I thought so too." She sat across from him, sliding a data pad onto the table. "We received your preliminary report. This Niaran tribe, an all-female civilization living in harmony with the planet. Do you realize how extraordinary this is?" "I do," Ethan said softly. "They're not just surviving, Captain. They're living. They've built something we've forgotten how to build. Peace." The captain tilted her head. "And you bonded with them?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, they saved me. They're intelligent, compassionate, and far wiser than we think." Lynn sighed. "Command wants details. They're planning a research mission, possibly colonization." The word struck him hard. He looked up sharply. "Colonization? No, you can't. That planet isn't empty, it's alive." The captain's eyes softened slightly. "I understand your feelings, Lieutenant, but orders are orders. Humanity expands. We can't stop that." Ethan stood abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. "Then you'll destroy them. You'll take their forests, their peace, their way of life, and for what? Resources? Data? We can't do that again." The room fell silent. The hum of the ship felt suddenly louder, heavier. After a long moment, Captain Lynn said quietly, "You're not the first human to find something worth protecting, Ethan. But you can't stop progress." He met her gaze, his voice trembling but strong. "Progress means nothing if it kills what makes life beautiful." For the first time, the captain looked unsure. Later that night, as the ship drifted through space, Ethan sat alone in the observation deck. He opened a small wooden charm in his hand, something Elira had given him before he left. A piece of Niaran crystal, glowing faintly blue. He remembered her voice. "Remember us not as the lost, but as the living." He couldn't forget her. He couldn't forget them. So he made a decision. A week later at the Galactic Council, Ethan stood before admirals, scientists, and diplomats. The lights were bright, the cameras flashing. His story had gone public. "The planet Niara," an official said, "is a rich biosphere. A human outpost there could benefit the Federation. Lieutenant Cole, you've lived among them. Your insight is crucial." Ethan looked around the hall. Hundreds of eyes watched him. He took a breath. "I didn't just live among them. I learned from them." He paused, letting his words settle. "The Niarans are not primitives. They are guardians of their world. They have lost much, but they live with courage and grace. If we land there, if we take what is not ours, we will destroy something sacred." Murmurs spread across the room. One official scoffed. "Sacred? Lieutenant, they're aliens." Ethan's eyes burned with emotion. "So are we, to them. But they treated me like one of their own. They showed me what humanity lost long ago. Harmony with life itself." He stepped forward, voice steady now. "If you send a colony there, I'll go with it, but not as your soldier, as their protector." The hall went silent. Cameras flashed. The officials exchanged uneasy glances. Lieutenant, Captain Lin whispered. You know what you're saying? He nodded. Yes, I'm going back. Someone has to speak for them, someone who knows what their songs mean. There was no applause, no cheers, just silence. But in that silence, Ethan knew he had done what was right. Months later, under the twin suns of Niara, a silver ship landed softly on the glowing grasslands. Elira stood at the forest edge, her heart racing. The air shimmered as the ramp opened. And there he was. Ethan stepped down slowly, his boots touching the soil he had longed for since he left. He looked around, drinking in the scent of the forest, the whisper of the trees, the familiar golden light. Then he saw her. Elira. She walked toward him, her golden eyes bright with tears. You came back, she whispered. He smiled, his voice breaking softly. I promised, didn't I? The tribe gathered around, their faces full of joy and disbelief. The human who had fallen from the stars had returned, not as a lost traveler but as a bridge between worlds. Ethan knelt down, placing his hand on the glowing earth. No one will harm this world, he said quietly. Not while I live. Elira placed her hand over his, the glow from the crystals lighting their faces. And as the suns rose higher, the human and the alien stood together, two souls from different worlds, united by something stronger than distance, stronger than fear. Hope. And in that moment the forest of Niara sang once more, not of sorrow but of new beginnings.